Okay, I am live from Ghana with my new uncle-in-law, possibly, or to be. Let's give it a week at least. I'll be getting married to my second wife here. That itself, I'm sure, is interesting to lots of people. And we've got Jay, our regular guest from the UK. Jay's a Christian. Jay, roughly how old are you? I've never asked.
I'm approaching middle age.
Middle age. Okay, you're approaching 50?
Little bit more.
Okay, just a bit more than that, okay?
Yeah.
I'm 44. You are 45. 45. And so something about you that I want to say that I find UK viewers might be interested in. You've got, I would say you're successful. You've got quite a big house. But what's special, I think, particularly, is that you have a lot of people who are either not your relatives or distant relatives living in your house for years, including hosting me. And I think that links to the topic of do good things attract or come to good people? And that actually, even though Jim Ron didn't quite say that, it's actually a verse of the Quran: good things are for good people, bad things are for bad people. And some people translate that as, because there's a masculine and feminine in that description, they say good men are for good women or something like that. Well, good women are, vice versa, basically. Yeah. Like attract like in some ways. So there are many ideas like that in Islam and Christianity. I remember, Jay, you were quoting another verse earlier on when we first discussed this on WhatsApp. They would be known by their fruits. Is that right?
That's also in the New Testament, and it says that you will know people by what they demonstrate. So a poison tree does not bear good fruit.
Cool. So with that, go on, carry it, and then I'm going to play the video.
If you have a spiritually poisoned or ill in a bad way, like a person, eventually their characters will show through. They may hide it at the start, but eventually their fruits will be shown. And in life, I think we're all given enough time to really show our true nature.
Yes.
So why not make good changes, as difficult as what they may be, in order to join the long road to a happier life, a happier well-being?
Cool, I love that, because it is a long road. Nothing happens overnight. So before I play the video, people might think this is all this airy-fairy stuff, like he's going to talk about attraction. And I will attempt between us, everybody can have their opinions and controversial opinions, but I'm at least going to try to explain how logically good things do come to good people, even if you might see alternative examples like corrupt rich people, etc., etc. Let's play the video.
The guy says to me, well, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, this is happening to me. I do this, and then this happens, then this goes wrong, and then this happens. How come all these things happen to me? I'm trying my best. I say, sir, I really don't know. The best experience I've got over the last 25 years especially is those kind of things always happen to people like you. What you've got to consider is, if you wish for it to change, you must consider that perhaps you should change. See, if this is happening to me, maybe it's because it's the person I am. Now, some things are accidents, I understand that. But some things are attracted. You've just got to make sure that it wasn't just accident, that maybe you're becoming that kind of cynical person. Maybe unhappiness is attracting unhappiness. Maybe overdue sadness is attracting sadness. Maybe confusion attracts confusion. And it's true, whatever we are attracts. So we must take a look and see where we are. The guy says to me,
okay, so I'm going to very briefly give a tiny bit of logic. And that tiny bit of logic is, don't we try to make good decisions? And if we're trying to ever make good decisions, you must realize good decision hopefully result in a good result. So don't make excuses when things go bad and suddenly think it's all random. You'd know deep down, I think, if you ever try to make good decisions, you must know there's a link between the decisions you make and the results you get. Hopefully that makes some sense. But haven't had Malik to say a few words. What are your initial thoughts? And then I'll go to Jay and we'll go on.
Okay, so I think it's an interesting discussion. Just as you rightly said, I mean, the laws of cause and effects actually is a reality. And I personally believe that the laws of nature, which are very immutable, are laws that do not even spare children, let alone adults. So whatever you decide to do, you should expect a likely consequence as far as your decision is concerned. As a Muslim,
Yeah.
at least I will not be able to point exactly the verse, but I'm told, I have read it somewhere in the Holy Quran, that Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in their hearts. In their hearts simply means your mind, your whole thoughts.
So practically, for people who are not religious, how would you say being kind or generous, has it helped you in any way?
Oh yes, it has really helped me. I mean, it is a natural order. We religious people believe that we do things just for the sake of God. But actually, when I help a brother, it is I'm helping God. God does not need any help from me, except that God requires of me to help a brother, a neighbor.
And somehow you feel it comes back to you.
Oh yes.
Can you think of an
In
example?
fact, I don't even think about the coming back to me, but I rather think about the good feeling I get
Yes.
after I do that. If it comes back to me, I'm unable to even pinpoint to say A, B, C, D. But one way or the other, certain things happen to me that I call miracle, and I get certain favors that I did not even anticipate. And sometimes I sit down to see that no, maybe some good that my parents may have done to some people is rather the reward I am receiving today. And in the light of that, I am also going to continue that so that my children and my unborn generation will also benefit from the good that I do today.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There's like an immediate feedback, and sometime in the future, there's another kind of, when I say feedback, good result.
Yes, sir.
Jay, you seem to be agreeing. You don't have to agree, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely agree. With everything Malik said, and it's kind of scientific in a way, where like it's a natural law. Some people call it, when you're doing the right thing, which is always like a good thing. Your conscience tells you have a feeling of goodness or calmness or about it. So Jesus talks about treasures in heaven, and heaven being the consciousness, and in order to achieve that existence, you have to live the right way. So if I was to help someone across the road, a simple task, for example, like that in itself is the reward. It's not so I stand there and then wait for someone to pay me.
So some people who don't understand these kind of spiritual things, that they might say that what's the reward in helping? How can you say that in itself is a reward? I totally get it, but I want to see and hear in your own words, and I'll try my own words afterwards.
Well, when you save money or put money in the bank, like you're investing, you're putting something in, and so in your own consciousness, and what we have to, and Jesus did say, if you look inside my consciousness, there's nothing there but the angels, meaning you have a pure mind, a pure heart. The heart is the mind, as Malik said. So you don't have resentment, anger, envy, bitterness, jealousy. So in order to have that consciousness, you have to live the right way. So by doing the right thing, you're building your spiritual consciousness. if I was to not help the person when I knew that the person needed help, I then have almost like it's like having poison or something in your consciousness. So and that is the I don't think it's a punishment, but like so when in Christianity, when he talks about entering the kingdom of heaven, like so there's a story about the rich young man, and he was full of riches, money, but he was also very egotistical and certain about everything. And Jesus and the disciples said that not only do you have to lose that worship of money, but you have to lose that worship of yourself in order to be teachable and to receive the riches from heaven, so to speak. So it's about consciousness, and that's what the New Testament is about. So everything that Malik does in terms of with his house, letting people stay, helping people, you know, and some of them might not be good people or bad people. It doesn't particularly matter a lot. It's what Malik does within his own conscience and his own heart and God, and that's where the rewards are. So I would say, from what little I know about Malik, he's a very, very rich man in ways that most people don't understand. He's rich in consciousness.
I love what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is the reward is a sort of freedom of your soul, like losing the burden and weight of negative feelings. Like when you do good things for other people, somehow you get something good back and you're released from all your negative thoughts. I think that's
when you're doing the right thing, there's no fear. If you're helping someone, there's no fear. If you're doing something from the ego, from the self, there's fear of how it'll look, fear it won't work, fear it. So for you to do this stream, for example, like if you're doing it with a genuine purpose to broaden your own mind, hopefully people will benefit from it, even if it's just one person, you know, you're doing the right thing. However, if you were doing it to look good, to sound good, to play to women, you're going to like be uptight, you're going to be nervous. If it doesn't work, you're going to feel terrible. So doing the right thing helps you almost lose that egoic part of self, of character.
Yeah, I love that. What I love, one of the things you said, which is both in the Bible and the Quran, because the Quran refers to the Bible in particular in this situation, which is if you save the life of one person, you save the life of all humanity, and if you kill one person, like killing all of humanity. So, like people nowadays want 1 million views and stuff like that. I do. Maybe you're saying what you just said because you've heard me say this 1 million times. But if I help one person, that's it. That's all we're looking for. I don't need to. Helping 1 million people would be nice, but one person is valuable. They matter.
I think if you're on the path to helping people, whether it be one person who listens to the stream or stays in Malik's house or 50,000, it doesn't really matter that much. The most important thing for you two is to be on the right path to helping people. So. And educating people, in your case, Khalid. So, like, you see, Malik opens up his house, but maybe next week nobody might come, it's okay. Like, he is opened, Malik's door is open to strangers.
Deeds are judged by their motives.
Yeah, and his heart and spirit in doing it, and if it is genuine, then. But also as well, when anything is genuine, good, like the guy in the video said at the start, you attract what you are.
Yes, and so let's prove that point. I'm gonna touch on a couple of things. We got Claire, the secular Quranist, asking about you as well. We'll talk about that. That's kind of an important point. Like, do you believe in the afterlife? But let me cover a few things in order. So. We're talking to in the UK to a largely secular, non-religious group of people who might not believe in these ideas. They might consider, karma and all this kind of airy-fairy. Consider airy-fairy. I want to put forward certain ideas. One is, if you want to be successful, you need to. The more people you can help, the more valuable and therefore The more valuable you are to more people, therefore, the more money you can make if you want to measure success in that. If you are uptight all the time and miserable and you never help people, you never really understand the needs of people. You need to communicate with people, you need to be helping people all the time. And then you know how to serve people, and then you can monetize it. I don't really see it exactly in that kind of path, but there is a logic there. I suppose the other point, like, let me quickly ask you what Claire is asking. Do you believe in the afterlife? I think it's pretty important to believe in the afterlife, to realize that there are certain consequences that you can't necessarily pay for in this life, because the police can't catch you for every bad thought you had. But if you think, the absolutely beautiful thing about religion is that it makes you think really long term. Like, you're thinking like your unborn grandchildren level, right? I'm thinking beyond this life. So I'm going to think really long term. But if you think on the opposite end of the spectrum, short term, then you make really bad choices, because they're only going to benefit you for one bit, and they're going to cause trouble for the rest of your life. Like, for example, taking drugs. So that's why this question is important. Claire has brought up, we know Claire, she's a regular on this show as well. Okay, so first of all, do you believe in the afterlife, Jay?
I don't know. I
Okay.
honestly have no. Well, when I say I have no experience of it, I don't know, and I'm completely open to the possibility there is, and our actions. I believe that our actions and thoughts affect us as we are now. That doesn't mean to say that there isn't an afterlife, but I genuinely don't have a. My thoughts are that I don't know.
Don't know. That's fine. And I think I've done videos about proving there should be an afterlife. And that sounds really weird. How can you scientifically prove there's an afterlife? I could briefly touch on that. But before I touch on that, what difference do you think it makes if you believe in the afterlife or not? Jay?
Well, I think if you believe in the afterlife, then almost, well, you could be driven by fear a little bit, in the sense of, oh, I must do my homework, I must be kind, I must. It's like fear.
I am driven by fear, actually.
That can be, to have a fear of God is quite a good thing. But I think it would, if you knew there was an afterlife, or you thought there was, then it would make you improve your behavior, I imagine, so you didn't come back as a toad or a spider.
If you believe in reincarnation,
yeah, and things like that. But I choose to believe that, like, my actions now are what's important, happening now in the world as we speak. So, like, know them by your fruits, which doesn't mean to say that I don't think there isn't an afterlife, but I think as a Christian,
I believe in creating heaven and hell in this life. That's what the Quran says, that for those who fear God's judgment, they will have two gardens. And gardens is a metaphor for paradise. So you have paradise in this life and the next. So some people say, I would say atheists would say, oh, you guys are living for the next life, not this life. But actually, as I think we're agreeing pretty much, that if you make good choices, you're going to benefit this life and the next. Let me give you just a touch of this idea, or a proof of. It's a really beautiful idea that I would say has elements from the Quran, but is from another really interesting character. I'm trying to remember his name, but he said basically. He tells a little story, but I would try not to tell the whole story, of twins in the womb. Ever heard of it? Like, they're having a discussion about what happens outside, what happens in life after labor.
No.
Do you know that one?
No.
So I'll briefly touch on it. So there's two twins discussing within the womb if there's any life after labor, after birth. And obviously it sounds silly because after birth there should be life, right? But from their perspective, the womb is the universe, and life comes through the umbilical cord. So when that's severed, then there should be death. But letting go of all the things that through birth, you have to let go of all those things. You stop having that. You don't know your lungs can actually breathe in. Yeah. And so after you've already experienced, actually, I would say two transformations where death led to a higher form of life. So from sperm coming into an egg, the sperm actually dies. It explodes. There's literally zinc light explosion, right? And from that transformation, you become a higher form of life, which is a baby within the womb. And then when you have death in the womb, not death in the womb, but you sever your life in the womb, you're exposed to an even greater, unimaginable life. So we've already had two of those transitions. So it's not unreasonable to think that there'll be a continuation of that. Don't know if you can call that proof, but see, that seems to give credence to the idea that it's possible. What are your thoughts? And then maybe I'll share it with Ask Malik. What are your thoughts? Because you're less religious than us too.
Yeah, from what I take from the story is that, like, even as like the initial stages, so in the womb, that is the universe. Then you come out into the world, and then the cot with the mother will be the world, and then the house, and then the school, then but wherever we're at in whichever stage, that world or universe keeps getting bigger and bigger. So in Christianity, it teaches about an infinite amount of power of God's Spirit. So it's ongoing. So that might, it doesn't prove it, but it's a good example to say that who are you to say that we are now not just in the fourth stage of 20? You know, there might be something after the afterlife. Who knows? But from an early age or even pre-birth, we are living in a confined space, and that which you probably wouldn't believe there was something after, and then it keeps getting after, and that's before birth. So after birth, we keep evolving anyway and changing. So that, I think the argument is there to sort of prove to people that there may be an afterlife, and I think it does. It doesn't prove that there is, but I think it's a good story to open the mind up that at many stages. I would
agree. It's hard to prove for certain, but we've got the evidence. Let's say there is not. I would say it's scientific evidence to say this has happened twice already, so you shouldn't just discount it at least.
Yeah, I mean,
twice in your own life, I should say.
Yeah, it's happened twice already, and that might mean there may be a third. There may not. Who knows? But it's to begin. Because in these conversations, you can't really tell people what to believe, and it's more about opening their mind up with your demonstration and just saying, well, maybe it's possible, and then they'll make their own. You know, and maybe in a year or 2 years' time, they might think, actually, I was thinking about that, and it's possible.
That's exactly how I think. I think we're exposed to ideas, and we contemplate them differently after many years. I've had many such occasions where I disagreed with an idea, and then 10 years later, the idea is still there, and I go, yeah, wow, that's so true, and I benefit from 10 years later. Malik, just share any thoughts that have been coming through your mind.
Okay, so this is a very controversial area. Anytime you talk about life after death, because none of us has ever been part or has ever experienced that part of the world, so it becomes a bit difficult trying to prove to someone who actually does not believe in a situation like that. But for me, I always think from the layman that first and foremost, like you said, we have the atheists who do not believe in the existence of God. Yet, they have certain morals that is in consonance with what the religious people have. So it tells you that any human being, properly so called, it has a certain level of inclination towards what is good and bad. And therefore, you need not to be religious to know. The question is, where does it come from? Where does
yes.
the absolute morality come from? Where did we acquire it?
Yeah.
What is the conscience that's telling you to do these strange
Exactly.
things?
What is
Yes.
the conscience that's telling you? Because, for instance, someone does not believe in God, yet this same person believes that it's not right to kill. What is putting fear in this person? Because, after all, the concept of God is nothing but accountability. So, if you don't believe from the onset that there's no God, then you should not have any inclination towards accountability. Religious people are afraid to do certain things because they are afraid that one day they are going to be accountable. So for me, that is a perspective I always take it from. Yes, I take it from the perspective that some people believe there's God, others don't believe there's God.
I think I'm gonna chime in because there's a verse of the Quran that it says, we take as evidence that the
Self-accusing soul.
the self-accusing soul, that there is a day of judgment. Is that right?
Yes.
So the conscience, according to the Quran, is evidence of the afterlife, because it's a strange program that we've all been given that a lot of us want to ignore. Like, you want to rob a bank and I want to get away from the bank. Then you have sleepless nights because you did something bad, and you hate that conscience. And even Sigmund Freud and top psychologists, even if we don't agree with everything they said, they agree that there is this strange thing. And even people like Viktor Frankl, very famous psychologist, say, just listen to your conscience and you do well in life, you'll be happy. So there's something mystical, magical, maybe godly about this conscience. And why would you be given this conscience? Maybe because it's so you can pass the test of life. Who knows? What were you going to say? Then I'm going to ask you a difficult question about corrupt leaders and how they have lots of money. But anyway, yes. What were you going to say, Jay?
It's a fascinating points that Malik was making. That religious people have a conscience, but also the knowledge, which is mental, that there is an afterlife. So I must conduct my behavior. However, non-religious or atheist people still have a conscience. So I believe that. So people like Stephen James, who I believe to be a man of good heart.
SJJ, is that him?
Yeah. Mentally, he does not believe in God, but that doesn't mean to say that God doesn't work through him, because just because Stephen thinks he's an atheist doesn't mean that God isn't in his life. It's just his opinion.
I often think he's very, very close to Islam. He's just one step away.
I don't know about that, but I like what Malik was saying, that kind of like it. You might think this, you might think that, but we still have consciousness. So where does that come from, and why is it there? What's the purpose of it? And that's fascinating. Where does it come from? So non-believers have a conscience as well. So, but also just really quickly, what you said about robbing a bank, what the Jews said in the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt not steal, as in thou shalt not rob a bank. But Jesus came and said that you can't get away with robbing a bank, even if the police don't catch you. Even if you keep the money, you can't escape the consequence consciously from robbing a bank. And then he later said, which is difficult to get to that place, you must, even if you think about robbing the bank, you're not in the kingdom of heaven then. So he preached like pure of heart, to be the old try. He knew it was a long road, but try to be the very, very God conscious at all time. And the thing is, those rules work in our favor. You know, so those religious and spiritual laws are there to protect us from ourselves. But people don't think that. People think, oh, they restrict you, and they do. They restrict bad behavior. They restrict gluttony. They restrict sexual immorality. You know, and that's good. So I for one, my life is better by trying to be restricted using religious, spiritual rules, of which the conscience is possibly one of the main ones. You know, you know whether something.
I love what you say. I don't want to even nearly reiterate anything you've said there. Beautiful, I totally agree. But
Thank you.
the obvious question is, there are people who are rich, who are corrupt and evil. We have lots of that in African leaders here. What's your answer, Malik?
Okay, so corruption among, you know, the origin of corruption in Africa is the fact that we have weak structures. The structures are so porous that they allow powerful individuals to always get their way through. Even if you look at the development of the English law, somewhere in the 11th or the 12th century when the common law was developing, one of the major setbacks was the barons, the fact that they could bribe the juries and even disrespect the orders of the courts. So Ghana is evolving. Our democracy started from 1992. The structures are not all that right. So because of this, a lot of people are able to get away with crime.
Sure. So they can do bad things. The real question is, are we wrong in saying that good things are for good people? It looks like good things are for bad people sometimes. What would be your answer to that?
Good things, if I say good things are for bad people, you know, God, I always say that God does not mean evil or bad for a human being. Everything God means for man, everything God means for man is good.
Okay.
It is humans' action and reaction that leads to evil. So the consequence of our action and reaction is what leads to evil. So the bad person, the good thing may be for that person until the person begins to do evil.
Okay.
So when God said good things are for good people, and good people are for good things, that's exactly what it means. It means God at all times means only good for us.
Okay. I'm not sure if I totally understand. So let me ask it this way. If there's a rich, let's say, African dictator, and he had lots of money, and everybody agrees he's a very bad person, does that contradict what we're saying?
If you are bad, obviously the consequences are going to be the fact that people are not going to more or less be happy
With you?
Yes.
Okay.
People are not going to be happy with you. I think like maybe he
Jay?
may remind, Jay may remind me. There's a Bible that talks. There's a Bible verse that talks about the fruit of all season or something like that. That it is accepted by all at all times. So if you have a person with a repulsive character, that person may not be accepted by all. And therefore, if you are a leader with such bad or evil character, your people will continuously seek to undermine you.
Yes.
Even though they may not have the ability to overthrow you.
Yeah, or they'd be plotting to kill you every day.
Exactly. And we have seen such evil characters whose government have been toppled. We can not too long ago, the government of Iraq was toppled. The government of Libya was toppled. And sometimes they blame the West for orchestrating this. But other times you sit back and you analyze the way they rule their people with an act of cruelty and wickedness. So then, like in my introduction, I talked about the laws of nature. The laws of nature do not even spare children. So you have a government that gets angered by its people, it turns back and it goes to massacre the entire people. God may not immediately bring upon his wrath on you, but over time, the consequences will come. And you could see the sad end of people like Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. Their end was sad. And it is because they also continuously committed evil. They continuously committed an act of wickedness to their people.
Interesting.
And God did not approve of it. So the consequences is what?
Do you think Gaddafi was bad? I thought he was trying to do good things.
Gaddafi,
but maybe I don't know.
You see, Gaddafi was trying to do good things to the people, but at the same time, the people were met with high-handedness.
Exactly. Okay.
People were met with high-handedness. He developed the people. And genuinely, what I always say that if Gaddafi really meant doing good to his people, at a time when the oppression was so high, he could have just handed over the nation.
Yes.
But he saw to the end of the nation. If Gaddafi was genuinely a good leader, he shouldn't have found it too difficult to have resigned. Immediately, there was the insurrection.
Yeah. And I think he was found in a sewer hole or something.
Exactly.
And it was his own people that dragged him out. So there must be something bad about what he did, I guess. Okay. Because I heard lots of good things about how he was trying to use the oil for good and trying to remove himself on the dollars.
Exactly.
But things like that. But maybe there are lots of bad things as well.
Yes, he offended a lot of his people. And like we say that yesterday I mentioned to you that in the Bible they say the wages of sin is death. And that is a typical example of that.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. So
the wages of sin is death because he committed many atrocities against his people.
Right.
And the day of reckoning was waiting for him.
So you bring death closer to you by doing lots of bad things because people wish bad things for you? Is that the idea?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And I would like to just give in maybe I don't know if it's more relatable, but when people confess and so Elon Musk is a very famous person because he's one of the richest, if not the richest people in the world. It keeps it fluctuating, right? And he himself says, people, you would not want to be me. He's not a happy person. Now, people say, oh, but he's doing really good things. He is, but how do you put it? If all your, like you said, Jay, earlier on, even thinking the wrong things for the wrong reasons, that takes you out of this kingdom of heaven, right? So think about his relationships. He has terrible relationships he's on his third wife or divorce or something. Bad relationship with his children, although he tries. And I think what it is although he seems to be a really nice guy, I think his main weakness, which he's actually trying to escape from actually more recently, is his lack of belief in God, which is making him think that he must save humanity and get to Mars. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And that ruins the joy of the cool things he's doing, like a rocket coming back to land. That's awesome. But he can't enjoy that because he thinks it's all up to him. And that's a common sort of atheist burden to have that all the time. I think a Muslim reaction or approach would be that, I'm going to help humanity become multiplanetary because Islam, we believe, I think we believe in multiplanetary life. Right from the beginning, the Quran says, all praise belongs to God, Lord of all the worlds, plural. So that's very interesting. And there's more kind of ideas about aliens and things in the Quran. We're not against this thing that Elon Musk is doing. Maybe we should live on Mars, or maybe there's another second Earth somewhere else. People are saying they found a possible second Earth already, right? But it's not up to us to do that. Like, nothing's up to us. Like, my whole life is I've come to Ghana. I don't know what was going to happen. My uncle just said, you're going to stay here with me, stuff like that. And a million things seem to work out. And my effort is praying to God. And also being grateful. Like you probably hear a million times, you've been grateful to you and your wife and stuff like that. It should come naturally. But the Quran says, if you're grateful, I'll give you more, which kind of makes sense. If you think there's a real God, who's he going to give it to? The person who doesn't care about what he's giving it to, or the one who's grateful constantly? And as a practical thing, like if I'm grateful to you, you're going to be like, oh yeah, he appreciates it, I'm going to give you more. No, I'm not saying that's the contract, but that's the idea. That's a natural thing. If you give me something and I don't even care, you won't be, you would even feel wrong to give me the thing, because I'll be wasting the thing that you're giving to me, because you're a practical person who wants to benefit the world, right? That kind of stuff. So there's all these hidden benefits of following these religious laws. I've done a lot of talking. Jay, what do you want to say?
No, I hear everything you say. Nothing to add on.
Let me ask you that tough question then. So you see people who are really wealthy and really evil. You can think of all sorts of examples, right?
Yeah.
How does that contradict what we're talking about? That good things are for good people?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends what we mean by good. So when you're coming from the spiritual position, then riches are riches in your conscience. Now, other people will see good things like money, wealth, fame, fortune, applause from others, and a lot of them things are worthless, but to the human condition, like, they may be valuable. So like,
so there are things that are valuable that's not material.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think there are
or maybe the most valuable things are the things that are not material.
well, money, for example, money is a good thing.
Yeah.
But the money as a god, almost like idolatry, like, is a bad thing. All forms of idolatry are bad, really. But the chase of getting money, the false delusion that money will give me God. Money is God. Alcohol is God. Fame and fortune are God. Having 6 women tonight in my bed is God. So all of those things aren't God. And
false gods,
false gods. So our desire to have them, our suffering from the delusion that those things are God, you know.
And I think we all fall prey to these ideas. Maybe I'm talking for everybody, but I think I don't want to ever say that like I'm perfect. I've made loads of mistakes, and when I make the mistakes, I go, "Oh, I was chasing that thing. I tried to get it, and it didn't really make me happy."
No.
So, and I suppose that comes with age. Okay, let me ask you a question.
Can I just read you something here?
Yes, please.
It's actually it's an interpretation of Know Them by the Fruits. It says, there is only one way under the sun by which man can attain harmony. That is to say, health, prosperity, peace of mind, salvation in the true sense of the word. And that is by bringing about a radical and permanent change for the better in his own consciousness. This is the one and the only way. There is no other. For countless generations, humanity has been trying in every other conceivable way to compass its own good. Innumerable schemes have been designed to bring about happiness by making changes of some sort in man's external conditions, whilst leaving the quality of his mentality untouched, and always the result has been the same: failure. So that backs up what Malik's saying, where Malik, he has his consciousness, his mind, he's been shifted from himself, from his own like person into something bigger, working for a higher cause. So that change in his consciousness is the only way to achieve happiness in a way. So if Malik was to chase it for himself, within himself, there's not as it doesn't work. Or if he got rich in money, or if he got a new car, or if he got whatever. So the only way that we can change is by changing our consciousness and mentality to a power greater than ourselves, to a spiritual entity, which people don't want to do, because people say, well, if I don't have all of them things about me, what will I have? I'll have nothing. And it's like, that's a good start. And then you inherit better principles, better rules, and then you do get happy, but in a sense of contentment, in a sense of strength. So Malik will be quite strong as a character because his morals and his principles are intact. And that is one of the biggest riches you could ever hope to have.
Yeah, so we've got a situation in London, which I repeat all the time, which is loneliness is the biggest killer in London. And so despite having lots of things, in fact, because we have lots of things, we think we don't need to talk to people. Like, we've got endless videos we can play. We got, pay for and stream videos and anything you want. And then you feel like, oh, I don't need to talk to my neighbor because I've got all the stuff I need. And then you end up being miserable because you're not talking to your neighbor. So that the reason I'm mentioning is that because you talked about this thing that throughout history, we've always tried to change our outer world rather than change our inner world.
That's it.
And it's never worked.
No.
So our age is living proof of that. So Malik, I like to make things personal. So you've done well in life, I would say. Was there any point in life where you would, because money can corrupt and all this kind of stuff, was there any point in life when you weren't so generous and then something happened in your life and you said, you know what, I should be more generous? Or were you always like that? I would say I'm always trying to work on that. But anyway, what's your experience?
Okay, so first and foremost, I think in reacting to, sometimes I think we confuse success with making money. If people have loads of money and wealth, it's not the same as they being successful. Because you can have a situation where someone is so rich but has not even been able to maintain their home. That's
when you say maintain, like their family?
The family. Because you can have someone who is so rich, fabulously rich, has all the resources, and yet maybe the only child that they have, the child is wayward.
Yes.
I do not think that
ruined, because he's spoiled.
Yeah,
it's very easy to spoil when you're rich. Very hard not to.
I do not think that such a person can be classified or seen as a successful person, because that person is a spectacular failure. We have this mythical story of Midas. I'm sure you are familiar with it.
I've forgotten it. I need to be reminded.
Okay, so Midas was somebody who was so much in love with gold. So the more he got, the more excited he was. To the extent that there was a day he was tried by a fairy. The fairy asked him to name a wish. And then he said he would want to have anything he touches turn into gold. So this wish was granted, and then Midas was enjoying. Then one following morning, he woke up and was about to take his breakfast. So he said, oh, let me read the newspaper before I take mine. Immediately he touched the newspaper, it turned to gold. He wanted to take his breakfast. He touched the glass, turned it to gold. Then he looked into the garden and realized his daughter was playing. So the daughter rushed back into the room and hugged the man. And the daughter turned into gold. That was when he noticed how poor he has become. That at this point in time, he has become so rich that he has become so poor that all he had was just money. The only daughter he has.
You can't eat money. Money doesn't love you.
Exactly.
This money is for something. We're not anti-money. I'm trying to become a billionaire, by the way. But the reason I'm trying to become a billionaire is to create cool things, to become a better person through that process. There's many other things. The money itself, I'm very fortunate and happy anyway.
Yes.
But it's like a good challenge to create more beautiful things to help more people. Otherwise, it'll be, and it's actually, I have to say, because I'm trying to help in more ways, is that if you don't have that reason, then you can't be carried through to do the great thing. Or you can, but really painfully. Like Elon Musk says it's like looking into the abyss and eating glass. For me, it's not. I enjoy the process every single day. So if you have the right reason, not just to saving humanity is fine, but like if you think it's up to you, then it's not fine. It's a huge burden. I just like to help people, but I like to make it personal. Can you think of something that happened in your life that where you thought I'm off track, and you got back on track in terms of like you're becoming wealthy, and you realized you need to be more generous? I don't know. Can you give me some sort of story that is practical to you, or personal to you?
Yes. So what I would like to say is that it's just that I don't wait for something to happen. I am always thinking that probably what I'm doing in assisting people may not be enough. And that is my worry and my concern. That am I doing enough to help people? Am I not being selfish? To what extent do I share the little that I have with others? It is always a concern to me. And between you and me, I would love to do more. I would love to do more. Sometimes I feel that I'm not doing much. And there's a little bit of guilt that hangs around. And the joy that comes with doing or helping people is the joy that I always want to be around, remaining fresh.
Cool. So let me try to dig in different ways. So a lot of people say now in the West, there are too many toxic people. It's the word that's going around, right? So I don't want to, you shouldn't help this person. He's a toxic person. And sometimes, I'm sure it's happened, that you help somebody and they do something bad to you. What's your reaction to that?
Okay. Yes, sometimes you help people and they end up hurting you. It's true. But and
I'll ask Jay about this exact same question after you.
Yes, because sometimes you help people and they end up hurting you. It is a very real experience that we come across. But unfortunately, we cannot give up. Someone sent me some WhatsApp message that I read and I found very interesting. Maybe let me share that. He said there was this man who found a snake always getting bent. And then he tried to rescue the snake. And then he picked the snake up and the snake bit him.
Yeah.
So he dropped the snake. And then the snake was getting back into the fire once more. Then he tried to pick it up. And then he was bitten once more. And then a passerby asked, but you are making an effort in saving this snake, and the snake is also doing the best to bite and kill you. Why are you still helping? What the man said to him was that God created me to do good, and God created the snake to bite. So the two of us, we are playing our role.
I'm not sure if that convinces people, but maybe it convinces people. But it's a hard question. I'm not going to try to answer it because I wanted to ask Jay, like I promised. Jay?
Well, I've got a good example.
You think it's a good example? Go for it.
I swim in the sea regularly. And last summer, there were some young girls, about maybe 8-year-old to 12-year-old. They were jumping straight from the shore into the sea. And the water is really cold, even though it was summer, and it's dangerous. Their bodies can freeze and they cannot move and they can drown. So I swam over, I was in the sea, and I said to them, excuse me, just letting you know, just be really careful, because and one of them said, "Fuck off, who are you?" And
Which is a British thing because everybody's selfish and individualistic and they don't respect the elders. Yeah.
well, just youth. It was just arrogant youth. Who are you? You fat. See you. And I mean, just you're not a swimmer. You're everything. And I went, well, maybe not, but just be really, really careful, right? And I swam off. And the question that I put to myself was, because people were saying, oh, they're rude, they're horrible. And I said, yes, but if I come down tomorrow and there's a different set of people there doing the same thing, would I go over again, right, and warn them? And I would. And that's the truth, where you need to continue doing that. Maybe with them girls initially, the first girls, it might be wise to maybe let them experience how cold the water is.
Yeah.
And that could serve as a lesson to others, and they'd have to be rescued. But if I was to stop doing that stuff because I was offended and, you know, they were rude to me, then I'm not fulfilling like the spiritual rules. It means like what I was doing it from was a higher place than myself. Like it was to do the right thing. So yes, I would go back and do it again and again and again, even if they call me names. It didn't, I wasn't bothered. It didn't upset me at all. In fact, I found it quite funny. But yeah, so you need to continue.
I want to comment on that. That's beautiful, because the two things I want to say. First of all, the most important thing that might be missed here is that if you do good things selflessly, regularly, people generally love you.
Yeah.
That's the overall. Like you might have some FUs and people being rude, but generally people love you. That's my experience. Just being kind, whatever, in my clumsy way, I'm always attracting people positive. It can be in terms of relationships.
Yeah.
Things come easily to me, right? And I thank God for that, right? And the second thing you said about like how you found it funny, that's another experience that I have. And people find it really weird. Like when I'm having debates at speakers call and people are being rude, I want to kill you, and they say horrible things to me, and I'm laughing. It's because you actually become stronger. But if you don't do that, you become weaker, and your world becomes smaller every time you shy away from, oh, I'm not going to talk to this person. Because it's like a downhill spiral.
Yeah.
When you stop trying to help people because you're thinking somebody might not be grateful, or they might be a little bit rude. It starts from they're going to be a little bit rude, then you kind of say, okay, they might not be grateful, and all these kind of things. It's a downhill spiral, I'd say, but it's an uphill spiral when you try to help people, even if you
Jesus was a great example of someone who was persecuted and he continued, and even the night before he was crucified, he could have got out of it. But he continued on his path that he believed in, which was, and that resulted in his death. I mean, I don't think I would take it that far, but you know, in my own little world, I would do it again.
Cool.
And you gain strength from that as well. I may add, like as you say, if you bottle it, if you're frightened next time in case you get shouted at, then you then descend into hell in your own mind because you haven't done the right thing. So we all have the power to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and it is a choice. And quite often to do the right thing is the harder thing. Yeah.
What would you like to say as your last kind of where I like to cut off on good time, so I respect both of your times.
Yeah.
What would be your last message summary, Jay?
I would just like to say I've enjoyed chatting to yourself. I've enjoyed chatting a lot and listening to Malik. It doesn't matter what religion he is or where he's from or what he does. I understand his life, his principles, and what he does, and that's great for me. So it was and is an enjoyable experience, and I hope if anybody listens to the stream, they'll listen to the conversation and understand the message that we're saying.
Cool. And Malik, you have your last thoughts?
Okay, so I think so far it's been a very more like educative conversation, and all of us have shared our honest thought about these views. we may not be entirely correct, and we may not also be entirely wrong. I'm sure that in between,
Yeah.
we have made our point, and I am also happy with the issues that Jay touched on, and I have picked a lot this evening. I'm grateful.
I love that.
Thank you.
So I want to reiterate different things. So from both of what you said, first of all, like from Jay, you keep quoting Jesus, and people might think, oh, Muslims don't listen to Jesus. Jesus is mentioned more times in the Quran than
Yes.
Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Peace be upon them both, right? So we really love Jesus, probably more. I would say, I would claim more than Christians do, because we have a lot of children called Isa, which is Jesus,
Yeah.
right? So we love Jesus, right? That's one thing. And then I love the other thing you said, because like we might be a little bit wrong here and there. Might be hopefully more right than wrong, hopefully. And I love that, because a lot of people say, oh, these religious people, they think they know it all. No, I don't know anything,
Exactly.
Yeah.
but I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to share what I know, and that's it.
Yes.
And it helps me in life to feel lighter, like Jay was kind of saying. So I really appreciate both of your time here. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Claire, in the stream, and anybody else watching. Hope you like it. I suppose, press the like button to encourage other people to watch it as well. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys. Good night.
For having us.
You too. Thanks.